Hello.
Hi,
This is
Joan.
Hi, Brian. Brian, so good of you to spend your time with us today. And to our audience, hi. This is Joan Friedman on Always. Always is with the Academy of Lifelong Learning at Cape Cod Community College here on beautiful Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The purpose of our broadcast is to introduce the Academy to a broad audience, and we plan on introducing you to our coordinators, to our program of courses, and our events, and our catalogs. And today I have with me one of our new coordinators, whose name is Brian Haendiges. Brian, am I saying that correctly?
I say Haendiges. Brian Haendiges.
Haendiges. I'm sorry. I'm
No
sorry. I should have
worries.
clarified that with you. Brian Haendiges, who is starting, just finished a class called um, "Topics of Interest in Retirement." I mean, who would not be interested in that? Brian, we just did a study with some of our members, and of the types of courses that they would be interested in seeing us present. And one of them was they just wanted something to do in retirement. So this must have been an incredibly popular course. So it is my great pleasure to spend some time with you. So before we get into the course, O'Brien, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I originally grew up in the other end of the state, out in Palmer, Massachusetts. Spent some time in Maine for several years, down in Connecticut, and then came back to the Cape about 3 years ago. I'm in Mashpee. I recently retired. When we talk about the course, we could talk about how that led to the topic that I ended up working with the class on. I am a widower as of about 3.5 years ago, and that led me to consider retirement myself very carefully. And so in April of this year, I retired, which made the topic particularly relevant. There's a lot of work to do in order to prepare to retire, as well as you want to make sure that you're having some fun and fulfillment during retirement. So spent a lot of time looking at that, and it seemed an apropos topic. I have I have two kids, both adopted from Chile, both married at this point, and two beautiful grandbabies, one boy, one girl. And For fun, I made a long list when I got ready for retirement myself. Not a bucket list, but I made a list of 57 items, believe it or not, five different categories. And the objective was to pick off the top one or two in each category and live them to the fullest. So, spending time with family. My dad's, he'll be 89 next week. So spending some time with him and his wife, spending time with the grandkids and my kids. That's a topic. Creativity and self-development's another area. I'm a lifelong learner myself, and I enjoy learning. And so that's an aspect. There was a component around socialization and getting to know people. So all of those led to an interest in the class. But I recently took up piano lessons again after about a 40-year absence. So I got to do that. I play some chess. I'm a writer, so I've finished a manuscript for a nonfiction book and am working on one for a fiction book. So lots of different things at the same time, and trying to enjoy each one of them.
Well, thank thank you for your family background. Sounds like you do have a lovely, lovely family, and that you put it together about how to retire and those things that make it fulfilling for you. And all the more that we're thankful that you decided to spend some of your time with us. Um, Now, Brian, had you ever taken a class at ALL before?
I had not, and I wasn't even aware of it. I've taught a few classes at UConn to their MBA program, and Virginia Commonwealth University (VCU) to their MBA program. I've taught different things over time. I've taught chess to kids anywhere from 5 years old to I think the oldest in my class, very similar to ALL down in Virginia, was like 85 or 86, and ended up, acting like a little kid by the end of the class. It was a lot of fun to see that kind of engagement and enthusiasm for learning something new. I taught karate for a while, so I've done several different things, and of course at work, when you lead a group of people, you're always trying to teach. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's a very old saying. I always thought it was Japanese, but I looked it up, and it goes all the way back to Roman times and Seneca, that to teach is to learn. And so there's a mutuality to learning, a social aspect to it. And so that's something that I was looking for as well. So yes, I've had some experience, but not this one with ALL. I saw an advertisement online for it. And so I reached out to Henry, told him I thought I might like to teach a class on chess because I'd done that in Virginia. And he said, well, you already have a class on chess, but how about something else? And business for MBAs wasn't really good for a retiree group, but I said, I've just retired, so let me see if I can throw together a sample curriculum there. And we did. And so it worked out well. And I know we'll talk about the class now, but just a very enthusiastic group and a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was going to be my next question. Is you just got finished with your group? Are you done with your group now?
I have one more class on Monday,
One more class
which is
on.
kind of a wrap up, but
Well,
yes,
so Brian,
yes.
tell me, what did your class look like? And by that I mean, um, um, if I sat in your class, would I be listening to lectures? Would I be seeing slides? Did you have a number of different guests? What did it look like to be in your class?
Well, let me just tell you about the makeup of the class at first. I mean, I think very much like other classes, because a lot of the students were taking other classes as well. In fact, we had to compete with one on wine, which, retirement or wine, it can be a hard decision for people. But
It could be the
we
same.
got we had I think 11 people in class. We had some people had not retired yet, but most had, or were close to it, including somebody who came out of construction, somebody who worked in education, in healthcare, had a psychologist. So a wide variety of interests. And it was a combination of both, a little bit of lecture, but active lecturing with the opportunity for people to jump in. But some of the classes, there was a lot of back and forth where we learned from each other. So, and that was the intent here, is that I'm a newer retiree. I certainly have expertise on a couple of the topics that we covered, but there are others where it was invaluable to get input from the others that were in the class. And so there was some lecturing, but there was also quite a bit of discussion, and that was probably the more engaging part for me.
Mhm. Well, like I said, is that these are the types of courses that our population seems to want to take. So, what were some of the topics that you had in class? What were some of the interesting things about
So we
retiring?
started we started with investing. That's a lot of my background, and it's also an area that the people seem to want to know a lot about. And one of the first things we did was just make sure we gave permission to people um, to admit that they didn't know something. I think investing can be a really intimidating topic, and anything about retirement is pretty intimidating, because it's a different phase, and people are a little bit nervous about what they don't know. But try to break things down into basic language and just go through some of the backgrounds on investing, especially for a retiree. What are some of the more common questions that come up, and things that you need to know to manage your portfolio well? We spent an entire class on income and income generation, because when you retire, most of your income from working goes away. There are people who are still part-time working in retirement, and they have a source of income, but you have to get your income from other sources. And so you have to manage both that income as well as the outgo in a budget. So we spent time on that. We had an entire class on frauds and scams, which was probably one of the most engaging, because we went through a lot of red flags that indicate what are some things to watch out for that might make you nervous. It could probably be an entire class by itself. And then examples of things that people have run into in real life. So when I said there was group discussion, that's a really good example of where we had a lot of group discussion. So, and I knew we'd run into two or three where, yes, my mom or my best friend, yeah, I got suckered into one of these calls that said, Grandma, are you okay? Or Grandpa, I've been arrested and I'm in Mexico and I need some help. And we certainly ran into that. Let's see, we had a class on those things. We called it beyond the money, or things other than the money. So in retirement, and I think you alluded to this a little bit, Joan, already yourself, but there are a lot of things other um, than money and investing that are really important to people. So socialization. So how do I get out and meet people and build a brand new network? If my network used to be at work, it's not there anymore. How do I meet a bunch of new people? Health and exercise. So there's you know, it's not just about living long, it's about living well. And we want to make sure that people have the ability to live a longer, fulfilled, and happy life. And exercise and health is an important part of that. Make sure you go in for your checkups, and it kind of fit in with the socialization piece. One example that one of the a pair of classmates gave, I guess they took a class together, was they've been walking together every day for the last couple of years. And that's been a great way to socialize, but also to stay healthy. And then we had a class on what I call the tough stuff. So think topics nobody likes to talk about. So long-term care, um, estates and estate planning, insurance, and conversations with those around you that are hard to have, like when's it time to talk with somebody about taking away the keys or moving. So the really hard topics or difficult topics, and how to approach that, what's worked for people, what does not work for people. And then the last class coming up is a wrap up of open questions and also a little bit of fun. And I'm going to have each person in class, and they know this ahead of time, take 3 to 5 minutes and teach something to somebody else in class, or all the rest of the people in class. So just something they're passionate about, something they know about, and just teach to others. We may do a little bit of playing some games, because intellectual development and learning and play are really important in retirement as well. So that's I think the body of work. Of course, there was an in-depth class in each of those, but in summary, I think those are the highlights.
Um, Sounds incredibly interesting. We've had um, entire courses on individual things like that.
Mm.
I ran a course on volunteering
Yes,
and being retired or getting ready to retire, and how do you want to spend your time? What do you value? uh, where do we you know where to volunteer? But your course was a smattering of a lot of things, and what we're hearing from our members, this is really what they like. They
good.
want a little bit of a lot of things, and so I'm absolutely sure that it was very successful. And I sure hope that you decide to teach it again, because I'd like to take it. To tell you the truth, I think that even when you've been retired for a while, you do have those questions about, could I invest a little bit better?
Mhm.
That we don't talk enough about. And those frauds and those scams that you seem like you're dealing with something almost every day. So those types of conversations, I could see our population really being interested in, and so.
And there's relevance beyond even the population and class for a lot of these topics. People still need to invest well, but there are particular considerations once you get to retirement uh, that I think drew in the class a little bit more than what would happen if we were just talking to a broader population. So
Mhm,
it was
mhm,
this group all had, despite that difference in backgrounds, they all had some things in common. And
mhm,
both in terms of things they get excited about and things that they're fearful of or wary of. So
mhm.
that I think made for some more engagement than we might have had otherwise.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds really interesting. So you've been with us. You've been with ALL for a little bit of time now. Could you tell the audience, what you found ALL to mean to you as part of your life, as part of retirement, as part of, your plan for the future? Can you see ALL fitting into that as you go along?
Oh, I mean, certainly. I mean, the reason that I reached out to Henry in the first place is that I wanted to work on that socialization side of things and make sure that I got to meet some people. And so there was a great opportunity to meet a bunch of new people. We had our fall social, I think, just a week ago. Fantastic event. Really got to learn about what was going on at the Four Cs as well as ALL, and that was fun. And it was hard to move away from one conversation to another one just because the first one was so enjoyable. But
Yeah.
really good group. Another piece besides the socialization is just you look for some kind of fulfillment in retirement, and one of those things that gives me a lot of fulfillment is getting people to a better place than they were before we met. So if teaching might be an element of that, but even during my 40 plus year working career, I always wanted to make sure that people ended up in a better spot than before we had worked together. They get better and I get better at the same time. And so it's fulfilled that aspect of it as well. So I think, new fellow travelers on this learning path, I think people with similar objectives, but new perspectives. And it's been extremely rewarding from that standpoint.
Okay, well, we're really, really glad to hear that. We are here to expand people's knowledge, and again, those lifelong learners who want to continue to learn. But part of our mission is to add that socialization piece as well. Some people like all the Zooms, and the Zooms have a place, but some people like that face to face. And some of our members do live alone, so being with people is really important to them. So we're aware of that, and we do try to provide those opportunities as well, whether it be an event like our social, or something like a presentation. We just had one on growing old, and growing old gracefully, and so that we do try to do both components, which is to present education, but also to provide that socialization. Brian, I'd like to just ask you if there's anything else that you wanted to mention to us. You told us about what inspired you to do this, and that we're so happy that you did it. And one thing I wanted to mention is Henry, that you have mentioned several times in this. It's Henry Tamzarian, who is the head of our curriculum committee, and he would help you put together, a course that you wanted to present. But so, is there anything else that you wanted to mention, Brian?
There is one area you struck a chord with some of your comments about aging gracefully just now, and I didn't really mention where I spent my career, but I spent about 45 years in a combination of financial services and insurance. But the latter part of it, I worked with an older population around long-term care considerations and long-term care insurance. And it's really important that people have that fulfillment component of their life. And that was probably the most engaging part of my career, because the connection to the audience was so critical. I mean, you have to get things right with people when they're older. Our average person who went on claim for a long-term care event was 85 years old. And so when you're talking with them about their individual situation, there are a lot of considerations that are different from how you might talk with other folks. And you mentioned, for example, socialization. So social isolation, when you don't have the opportunity to talk with other people, can have a greater impact than obesity on your health if you don't take care of it. That's just one example out of all the things that we talked about. And there are a lot of forms of social isolation. One is as simple as you lose your hearing or you lose your sight. So wear your glasses and wear a hearing aid. Getting transportation so you can move back and forth between locations and get out to see people, or if you can't, that there are people that can come in to see you. So I think ALL's purpose is beyond just the learning element of it. It really makes for a positive life for people in retirement or near retirement, and that's probably one of the biggest things I got out of this whole um, class, and why I look forward to doing some more.
Well, I hope you don't mind if we quote you on that.
I don't
You
mind
could
at all.
find yourself
Yeah.
quoted in our next brochure. That was that was it's such a lovely thing to say, and has really been helpful to us. That that's what we try to provide, and nice to know that at least some people are benefiting by it. But Brian, I just wanted to wrap up right now, and say goodbye to whoever might be listening to us. We hope that you enjoyed our broadcast and that you turn in more to learn more about ALL. We would love to have you contact us at our site, which is capecodall.org, where you can get onto our mailing list. Please like us on Facebook. The more likes we get, the more they they put us out there. And we do have a YouTube channel. It's under Academy of Lifelong Learning Cape Cod. This broadcast should be out there in a very short amount of time, but you can see all the other broadcasts that we've had along with our events for the past few years. Um, We'd also love to have anybody that wants to sign up for a course, or anybody that wants to become a new coordinator. But Brian and I would like to thank you all for listening. And remember again to contact us at capecodall.org. Thank you.
And